Thank you for your patience and cooperation. Boarding will begin in a few moments.
Hello YouTube and welcome, Phriq here, and I have a brand new episode, nay, a brand new season of my Let's Play Flight Simulator X FSPassengers video series. That is right, we are out with the old of Season 1 and into the new of Season 2. If you remember in the conclusion or the finale of Season 1, you will remember that that company ended by us crashing into a tree, which proved to be a pretty big mistake, but not nearly as big of a mistake as me trying to heal my non-Obamacare covered pilot for $2.5 million. This ultimately led to the company being in a $1.5 million deficit, which inevitably killed the company, concluding Season 1. However, that is all in the past. We are on to Season 2. That company has been deleted, but we don't have a company for Season 2 yet, so let's go ahead and create one. So what we have to do is we have to go into FSPassengers and create a new company and pilot. So you can see in here that all that's in here is Dymo Airlines, which I believe is a typo that I don't believe should be there. I think it's supposed to just be Demo Airline and James Demo. That makes a heck of a lot more sense than Dymo, but whatever, we're not going to be using it. I only use it for testing now. We're going to create a new company. So here we go. Create a new company. The company name is going to be named the same as my last company, Phriq Airlines. However, it's going to be part dis because this is Season 2. Foundation date is going to be today, which is the 22nd of May. The year of our Lord, 2010, because apparently I can't go to 2015. And it's going to be founded by Phriq-O-Pher. Even though his company went into a negative $1.5 million deficit, I am assuming that he got a giant settlement from Piper because it was probably their fault for the plane crashing. So now he's going to have a lot of money to create this company. The prefix for this company and its flights is going to be Papa Hotel Quebec again, and I like how that's set up, so let's go ahead and hit next step. We're not going to be doing a scenario setting because I don't want to have victory conditions, which means I don't want a way to actually win by meeting like financial goals or other things like that. So instead we're going to do a custom setting, which allows a more fluid, dynamic, living company that can keep on going. So I'm going to hit custom setting, which it is, and next step. We are going to be doing economic mode again, where we do have to balance our budget and things like that, but instead of starting with $1 million, because we got that giant settlement from Piper, we're going to go with $3 million. We're also going to do fleet income this time, which is something we never did last time. So this way, if I buy new aircraft, instead of just selling them off because they don't do anything, I'm going to keep them and they're going to generate income for me. How? Well, if you see, they will generate income to simulate that they're making flights and earning income. However, there's not going to be another pilot in my company to make money for them. These flights are not logged, so ultimately they are going to be flowing through magic and or drone technology, making me money somehow. We are going to be doing a career mode for my pilot, which again means that I do have to level them up if I want to fly any more complex aircraft than this Piper PA-28-181 Piper Archer II that we're going to be buying for our first plane again. Instant record of flight, we are going to be doing that again, where if, regardless of what the conclusion is to the flight, it's automatically going to be logged. So if it's an awesome flight, it automatically gets logged. If we crash into a tree, it automatically gets logged. That way we can't say, nah, I didn't like that flight, I'm not going to count it. That's not going to happen. Fixed failure settings, we are going to do those as well. Easy to hard failures with a 5% chance of failure, the same as last time. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and finish create company. We're going to listen to some epic music for the creation of this company. And we are going to create a new pilot, which is going to be the name of our old pilot. After all, he did survive that crash. He just got injured, and he got a big settlement from Piper, so now we're back. Birthday is not going to be my birthday, which is not the 22nd of May. That is not my birthday, but I'm not going to tell you my birthday because I don't want you to find out who I am so you can steal my identity, and then I'll be broke. Even though I'm not rich anyway, so whatever. But what I'm going to do is I'm not going to do 1 January. I'm going to do what I did last time. One of my favorite bands is the early November, so I'm going to do the early November of 1985. We're going to be born the year that Back to the Future came out. And that's a great movie. So we're going to be from 1985. Player name, his name is going to be Phriq-O-Pher. Phriq-O-Pher. And we're not going to do any player info because he doesn't have a biography or anything like that. So we're just going to leave it as is and hit create and listen to some epic rock music from probably the 1980s or something like that. Anyway, we got a new pilot, we got a new company, we are ready to roll, right? No, we have to buy a plane. However, you can see I'm sitting in a plane. It is the same plane as last time, the PA-28-181 Piper Archer II by Carenado. However, I got a new paint job because the other green one, white and green stripes, was kind of ugly. So this time we're going to go with white with the blue top. It looks a lot more cool and also a little more 1985. So that's what we're going to go with. So what we have to do is go into FSPassengers and Company Manager. Here you can see that we have no aircraft. So what we can do is buy a current FS plane. I believe that FS is supposed to be for Flight Simulators plane, but I don't know for sure. But I'm going to click that button because that's how we buy a new plane. As you can see, we have some options to choose from. We can go to the cheapest one. But that's got a lot of hours, and it seems to be a bad choice, and they don't know who the former owner was, so they're not sure if it's well maintained, so we're not going to do that one. Whoops. Let's go to the second cheapest one. It's got a lot lower hours, seems to be a nice choice, and the owner was known for maintaining their aircraft very well. Well, so was the owner of the last Piper Archer I had, and that crashed into a tree because the engine died on the second flight. But whatever, I think this sounds like a good choice. We're going to go with it. $175,000 out of the bank. You can see that we got $2.8 million left, which is more than enough to heal my pilot if we crash. Barely. Close that manager. We are good there. Another thing that I'm going to show you is if I minimize my game, go into my games folder, which is on my other display, which you could not see, open up FSX, right click on FSX and go to open file location. We'll zoom up to the top and you will see this FSPassengers. What I have done is I have gone into here, into the config folder and this more option folder, open it up with Notepad, and you will see a bunch of zeros here, which means these penalties are enabled. However, there is one that is hidden here, and that is the disable flap check. That means that the penalty is disabled. I am not going to have a flap check penalty, meaning that if I do not use flaps on takeoff, I'm not going to get penalized for it. I have flown Cessna 172s and Grumman, which is similar to this Piper Archer, and I've never used flaps on takeoff, so I'm not sure why the game is requiring me to. If you have a long enough runway, they're not necessary. If you got a shorter runway, then sure, you might use flaps. But with these longer runways, we're not going to be using the flaps, so I'm not sure why the game penalizes me for that. So for that, I have put that to 1. I have disabled that. However, everything else seems relatively logical to have in there. The only other thing I wish I could disable are some of the lighting penalties. However, we'll go into my settings and just show you why I can't do that. As you can see in that config file, there was nothing to disable individual lighting penalties, but if we go into difficulty setup, right here for light penalties, realistic light penalty is what we have, which means that my beacon must be on, strobe and landing lights must be on, and stuff like that. However, if I go to the simple penalty, which is the next one, it only registers landing lights being on under 10,000 feet, which actually isn't even a law. It's just encouraged by the FAA. If you don't believe me, look in the FAR AIM Aeronautical Information Manual, and you'll see that it is just encouraged by the FAA, according to their publication. No light penalty. I'm not going to do that either, though, because I want to keep myself somewhat realistic. So I'm just going to get some lighting penalties because this Piper Archer II that we just bought doesn't have a taxi light. It uses its landing light as a taxi light. That's not uncommon for some of these smaller GA aircraft. Whatever, we're going to go with it anyway. Dangerous airports, we are going to keep actual war area situations there. We are going to do realistic transponder code penalties, which means I have to squawk the right code. Also, the thing with that I failed to do in Season 1 when I was crashing was do my emergency code. So if you remember in my finale video, I mentioned that you have to squawk 7700 if you're in an in-flight emergency, 7600 if you're lost communications, or 7500 if you're hijacked. I don't believe the game does hijackings. However, those are the codes in case we need them. I never actually looked at this before I did that video. I'm surprised that I remembered them, but I did. Transition altitude, we are going to keep that at 18,000 feet because that is what it is in the United States. That's also where I believe you typically turn to 29 or 9 or 2 for your altimeter, regardless of what the barometric pressure is. That's how they deconflict when you're at that altitude, the transition altitude. Altimeter penalty, we're going to keep that excuse me, I can't talk, but we're going to keep that realistic, meaning that we have to have the altimeter set to whatever the barometric pressure is underneath 18,000 feet, according to ATC and other controllers. Failure severity, we are going to be doing easy to hard failures. Hopefully my first failure in this season is not a complete engine loss, because that would suck. Why can I just get something small, like, you know, my taxi light doesn't work? Because I don't even have that. 5% chance of failure in each flight. So that is the same. So that's how we're going to be doing our difficulty setup. I'm sorry if there's something that you want to change, but that's how I decided to set it up. Anyway, we are sitting inside of our brand new, Piper Archer 2, tail number Victor Hotel, Kilo Sierra Lima, Victor Hotel. Before the dash, that's actually the country code for where that plane is from. So this is actually the country code for Australia, mate. So this is actually an Australian aircraft. That was more of a British accent. Whatever. If you're in America, it is an N, or November. I think Canada is C for Canada. But anyway, we're in Victor Hotel. We are in an Australian aircraft. With that said, let's go ahead and start up our engine, then we can do our first flight. I am, by the way, in KGYI, so I'm going to quick bring over my maps. So what you can see right here is, well, maybe. This should be Dallas-Fort Worth. Texas is the state we're in, the Lone Star State, the home of the Texas Cowboys, or Dallas Cowboys, or whatever, if you like football, but I'm a hockey player, the Dallas North Stars. There we go, hockey. Anyway, we are just north of Dallas, Fort Worth, which you can see Fort Worth right there. If we scroll up here, we're in this town called Sherman. We're not in this small airport, but this one right here, which is North Texas Regional, according to this updated aeronautical chart, KGYI. So we're in this airport right here. Also, if I go to AirNav, you can see that there's the airport diagram, a nice aerial photo of the actual airport that we're at. I can go and I have that zoomed in version of the airport diagram. So we're parked somewhere over here. So depending on what we get as our clearance for takeoff, whether we're going to go to runway 35R or 17L, I don't think we will use that tiny one. Anyway, we'll find that out in just a second, then we can look at it again. Also, I have it pulled up for inside the game, so it's apparently in Sherman, Denison, Texas. Anyway, the reason I'm here is because I had a request to fly in Grayson County, Texas, so I'm going to fulfill that request for you guys. However, you can see there's some clouds out there. I pulled up the Aviation Weather Center, which is real-world weather data, and you can see that there are a lot of storm fronts building, and it is overcast here by the satellite. You can see that it's lower clouds right here, and then some lower and higher, bigger ones up here. Anyway, whatever. We also are going to be flying in real world weather, which looks like this, which doesn't seem like a very smart idea, but I'm going to do it anyway because looking in game, it doesn't look too bad. It looks to be building, but I think we can navigate our way through there and still fly VFR. So that is the plan. Anyway, we are not going to be going to someplace. This first flight is going to be, again, testing out the aircraft since it is a new season and it is a brand new purchased aircraft in-game. We're just going to be doing a tour flight, so it will be relatively shorter. With that said, I am going to go ahead and start my engine, start the engine checklists and things like that. As always, if you want to follow along with the checklist that I am using, you can go ahead and do so because I have provided the link for the checklist that I am using in the description box below, so check it out and follow along if you'd like. I would love to have you guys follow along and point out anything I do wrong, because it's very possible that I could do that, even though I try to be as realistic as possible. Anyway, as you can see, the parking brake is on. I'm going straight into the start checklist because I'm not going to do any of the pre-flight inspections, because in a video game I cannot sump fuel out of the wing on account that it's not real. So I'm not going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go straight into the start checklist. Avionics power switch off, which you can see is right here. And it is off. Beacon and nav lights, we're going to turn those on. So the beacon, I believe, is right here. Yep. Nav light, I think, is right here. There we go. So nav light and beacon are on. Circuit breakers, we need to turn those on. The circuit breakers are right here. We got to verify that they're basically all pushed in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fly by magic by removing these yokes, and I'm going to use ESP through a head connector that controls the aircraft, because we won't have yokes. But anyway, we can't push in these circuit breakers because, again, it's a video game, but we're going to pretend that they are all in. Fuel selector valve, we're going to set that to desired tank. Once again, if you remember in my last videos with this plane, you can't do that because it has it selected as all, even though it's a right or left realistically. But it does draw fuel from both tanks, so we're just going to leave it as is. Carb heat, we want that off, and as you can see, it is up, it is off, it is cold, so we're going to keep it like that. Mixture, we're going to pull that all the way up to full rich. Throttle, we're going to crack that about 1/4 of an inch, not a whole lot. Throttle, our brakes, we want to test and set them again, so we could test them. You're not going to be able to see you can see the rudders move, but you can't see me actually put in the brakes, which are the top half of these. They can push in left and right, but they actually also have a different degree where they push forward if you've never been in an aircraft or anything like that or used rudders. But anyway, you can't see that, but I am going to turn my parking brake back on, which is this lever right here. If you're used to the Cessna, it's under the yoke, but in the Piper Archer 2, it's right there. Next thing we're going to do is propeller area clear. So we're going to yell all clear out this little window right here. Also, what we could do is hit Shift E, open up the passenger door that they're going to be coming in, and yell all clear. Do not come in here yet, though, and don't be by the propeller because I don't want to chop you up. Master switches, we'll turn those on. I turn on both the battery switch and the alternator switch at the same time, even though some checklists tell you to do the alternator after the engine is on. It doesn't really matter. Electric fuel pump, we're going to turn that on. That is going to act as a primer. However, this aircraft actually does have a primer as well, so if you needed to use it, you could. But again, it's a video game, and it will start right up regardless if I prime it or not. But we're being realistic again. Ignition switch, let's go ahead and turn that on. There goes the engine. So the engine is on. The next thing I'm going to do is check all my gauges to make sure everything is starting to warm up. We have a good RPM right there. I'm going to keep it at about 1,000. You can see it's dipping a little bit, so I'm just going to give myself a tiny bit more throttle just to try to keep that RPM at about 1,000. That'll be nice to get everything warmed up, get the oil warmed up, and so it's not as cold. I'm also going to turn off my fuel pump at this time. Avionics power switch, we can now go ahead and turn that on. You see the avionics all come to life. And before we start fiddling with the avionics, what I'm going to do is go into FSPassengers and start a flight. So there are 2 passengers who are ready and willing to fly with us despite our past record of crashes. So I am going to put 2 passengers in there. I'm not going to be putting luggage in because luggage doesn't matter for these tour flights because it doesn't get registered as cargo or anything like that. I'm not going to teleport it or transport it from airport A back to airport A. That's just not logical, so there's no luggage going in there. Set destination, we don't need to do that either because it is a tour flight, but we do need to set our flight type, and we're going to go in here and do a flight tour or a flying tour, whatever you want to call it, and we're going to set that. Also, we're going to give ourselves some gas, because as you can see that our gas is only at about 30%, and that's a little low. So we're going to pump that up to 100, click Advanced Fuel, and we can see that we're 100% on both wings. I'm going to view and edit the passenger list. They're both roughly the same weight. We got Claire Kuhn and Nanette Burgess. All right, they are going to be doing a flying tour of Grayson County, Texas. Everything looks good, so the next thing I'm going to do is OK real-time load, where it is going to take 2 minutes, which is fine because we do need to do the avionics, and also Shift E to open the door, which it already is. Here is our pilot data sheet and load manifest. It shouldn't look any different from how it did in the later, or earlier videos, I should say. I was going to say latter, but the earlier videos. However, we don't have cargo, so our takeoff weight is going to be a little less, and our center of gravity might have been changed by 1% or 2, which is fine. So I'm going to go ahead and start the flight. Alright, we are here. I am going to move my FSPassengers window up here so you can see it there. Next thing I am going to do is come down to my avionics because I want to get those set. Even though it is a flying tour, I am going to use VOR navigation. Just for reference, the VOR actually isn't at this airport. It's about 20 miles away. So if you want to know how you can use a VOR that's not at the airport, I do have a VOR navigation Let's Learn video that you could check out. Anyway, ASOS information is what we're going to be using. This is a non-towered airport in the game. In real life, I believe it is now towered. So it has actually been updated in real life, but in the game it is non-towered, so we got to do the information for that. ASOS information is 118.77, which is, ASOS is going to be basically our weather. It's the same as ATIS for the most part. So 118.7. Also down here, what I'm going to do is set that for Fort Worth Center, which is going to be the center that we're going to be contacting. Whoops. And that's going to be 124, maybe. Stop that. Stop betraying me. Oh, boy. Okay, we'll just cycle all the way through. 1, 2, 4. Sorry about that. 7, 5. 1. How did that get up now? 1, 2, 4, 7, 5. We're gonna leave it there. Next, what I'm gonna do is check my ASOS information. At the same time, I'm also gonna be changing my standby once I move this over to the CTAF frequency, which is 122.7. So let's go ahead and listen to the ASOS information.
Kilo, Golf, Yankee, India, automated weather observation, 2214 Zulu, wind 016 at Niner, visibility greater than 20 miles, sky condition few clouds at 2,100, temperature 10 Celsius, dew point 3 Celsius, altimeter 3000. Kilo, Golf, Yankee, India, automated weather observation, 221.
Alright, so we have our information. Winds are 016 at Niner. There are a few clouds at 2,100 feet, and the altimeter needs to be set to 3000, which you can see it is not quite set to, so we'll go ahead and try to set it there. And it looks about right there. Should be set. So that is set. I hit B there to make sure because it doesn't actually show me what it's set, and I don't want to get penalized for it. B sets the altimeter if it is wrong, and then you hear that altimeter voice.
Altimeter.
Altimeter. Anyway, all our passengers are in, so what I'm going to do is turn on the seatbelt sign. I'm also going to shut my door. And some of them you can actually click. There we go. So I don't even have to do the Shift E. I can use the door handle, which is kind of nice. I'm also going to hit this button, which I don't know what button it's called on a keyboard, but it opens up my ATC, and you can see that I am automatically now tuned to 122.7, which is the CTAF frequency. Since it's CTAF, I'm not going to get clearance, so I have to decide what runway I want to use. So the winds are 016, which is pretty much straight out of the north. So if I bring over my airport diagram, you can see 016. I'm going to be taking off on runway 35, which pretty much takes me on that 358 heading, which is the opposite of 016 roughly. So it's working out pretty good. So that's what we are going to do. We're going to go on runway 35. So I'm going to announce, select a runway for takeoff, and it's going to be runway 35 right. And I'm going to announce my taxi at this time.
Traffic, Papa, Hotel, Quebec, 7.
Landing lights, we don't need them.
Runway 35.
Don't need any of these yet. Everything looks good. Perfect.
6 miles south inbound visual, runway 35.
So someone's coming in to land right now, which is fine because we are taxiing hit my brakes there, and we are going to start our taxi. While I do this pre-taxi checklist, I kind of did most of those steps. Flaps, we want to make sure they're up, which they are. Also, avionics and radios on and set, we have done that. Transponder, we need to turn that to standby. So we'll go ahead and put that to standby, which it is right there. If I come over, you can see it's on standby. Also, ATIS or AWOS or ASOS, we check that altimeter has been set. Brakes during this, we can test and make sure they're working. Same with the compass, which appears to be working 24 as I turn. You can compare them to make sure that they are even, so you know your heading indicator is matched with the magnetic compass. Also, we can check our artificial horizon and our turn coordinator to make sure that they are working as well during our taxi. So those are all good things to do while you taxi. Looking for some blue or some yellow lines, excuse me, I'm colorblind today, which I found, so we're gonna try to taxi right here. Pull on the brake. Now I believe I should have to turn left. Also, you can see that the wind is coming from the north, so that windsock is kind of showing it from the north, kind of. It is a video game, so I don't put a whole lot of promise into the in-game windsocks. Also, a plane was coming inbound to land, so we just want to make sure that they are not going to go on the same taxiway as us. I'm again going to announce our taxi.
India traffic, Papa Hotel, Quebec 72 is taxiing to runway 35 right.
So based off what I see on my airport diagram, this should show that we are on taxiway Alpha, and this will basically take us all the way to the end of the taxiway, which will automatically turn right towards runway 35. This should also be Echo coming up to turn onto if we wanted to turn, so that should be taxiway Echo, and we can see that on our sign. Yellow on black is where you're at. Black on yellow is not where you're at. It's where you're going. So that's taxiway Echo. So we just got a little bit longer to taxiway. We got a taxi past, the next one is going to be Foxtrot, and then it will just be Alpha, and that'll take us on to runway 35. So that is our taxi instructions. Also, you can see my turn coordinator is working. You can see the artificial horizon is kind of banking and stuff if I do a turn. Not a whole lot, but the turn coordinator definitely is working. And now we're facing south, and you can see that the heading indicator and the magnetic compass match up, so those are working as well. So that is a good way to do your instrument check when you are doing your taxi. I'm taxiing a little quick here, but I want to get down there because taxiing is the most boring part of this game. Yet, if you want to do things realistically, it needs to be done, because I have taxied from the very north side of some long runways to the very south side of those long runways, and it takes a little while to do because, you know, some runways are quite long. Part of flying. That was a terrible turn. I'm not on that yellow line at all. Not a great way to start Season 2. However, my pilot is probably still in a cast because it was only a week ago that he crashed into a tree. Again, it was a week since I made my last video. I am sorry. I wanted to have this flight out a lot earlier, but I am married. I have a family, and they take precedence to making YouTube videos. Also, my job does as well. So it's been a hectic week. It is hard to make these on my non-days off. However, today is not my day off, but I'm making it in the evening for once. We're going to stop at the hold short line. That is what we need to do, because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn on our parking brake, and we're going to do our run-up. So brake is on. Seatbelts, harnesses, we want to make sure they're all checked. Seat backs, trays up in the upright position. However, we cannot do that, again, because it is a video game. Cabin doors and windows are closed, and we can confirm that by looking out the right. And that's closed, and out the left, and this is closed, and I don't even think there's a door here. So, anyway, it is closed. Flight controls are free and correct. Correct. Primer is in and locked. You can't do that in the game, but that's what you want to do in real life. Fuel selector is on the proper tank, which is all. So it auto takes from both tanks. Fuel pump, we want to make sure that that is off, which we can see it is. Also, mixture, we want that rich or appropriate. What it means by that is, just say we're taking off out of Denver, where our altitude is 6,000 feet. Well, you're going to actually have your mixture leaned already some, because the air is less dense up there. So you're not going to have it at full rich. However, down here in Texas, Grayson County, Texas, where it's only a field elevation of 750 feet, we are going to have it at full rich. Also, elevator and rudder trim, we're going to set those for takeoff. Elevator trim is at 7. And that's about good. We want it to be roughly at 7. We'll go forward a little bit until we hit 7.2, close enough. So that is good. Annunciator panel, we can test that, and it actually has it in the game, so I can push that button. You can see that those lights came on. If I hold in that button, you can see those lights are on. I'll let go. So we know they're working. This one is on because the fuel pressure, or excuse me, oil pressure is low, but that is simply because we are basically in idle. If I bump up our throttle, which we will start doing now in our run-up, we will see that that starts working. So autopilot and air conditioner, we can't check those. We want to make sure they're off. Also, what I'm going to do is look at my tachometer. You can see that I'm pulling in my throttle some. It wants me to push it to about 20 or 2,000 RPM. I'm not going to go that high because you can see that we're moving forward slightly, but you can see that my oil pressure went into the green and that annunciator light went off. Now we'll test our magneto, so I'll drop the first one down. We'll see a little bit of a dip in our RPM on the tachometer. So we'll go back and we see it slowly came up. It's only about 50 RPM. Do the same with the right one and all the way up, so we know that the left one was working. Next, what we can do is turn down our carb heat to on or hot, and we'll see that our RPM dropped. You can kind of see the number going down there. And if we put it back up, we'll see that RPM go up, so we know our carb heat is working as well. Also, we can check our amps and oil pressure and temps and everything else to make sure everything is in the green, which it looks good. Fuel pressure, it has always shown that for me, so I'm not sure if that's good or bad, if I'm going to crash or not, but I've never seen it in the green, so I don't know what to do there. Anyway, I think that might be a simism or a gameism. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is pull back my throttle, not quite 100% to idle, but close. Throttle is at about 1,000 RPM. Flaps set for takeoff. Well, I'm going to keep them up because I'm not going to use them. I'm going to be a rebel this time. Pitot heat, there are clouds, so there is moisture. So as I climb, there could be moisture building on the wings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do pitot heat, which is going to help the pitot tubes from freezing up because they are what tell me my airspeed and some information like that. So I want to leave them not frozen and clogged. Heading indicator, adjust the compass, but it looks like it is good, so we're going to leave that as is. And transponder, we're going to turn that to alt. With that, our run-up checklist is complete. We are ready for takeoff. So what I am going to do is I'm going to look out the window. This is a CTAF frequency, a non-towered airport, so we don't call tower for clearance. We have to do it on our own. It's the big boy system. So I don't see any aircraft coming on runway 35, which should be the one they're coming on, but I also don't see any coming on runway 17. That means that there is nobody in the pattern. Let's listen.
756 Charlie, taking out runway 13, departure to the west.
Alright, he's taking off on runway 13. So unless the information changed, which the wind looks the same, I don't know why he's doing that. But we're going to wait for him. Anyway, I am going to start taxiing onto the runway. I'll turn off my parking brake, and we'll wait for him to take off before we do our takeoff. While we do that, I'm also going to listen to the ASOS just to make sure the wind never changed.
Kilo, Golf, Yankee, India, automated weather observation. 2222 Zulu. Wind 016 at Niner. Visibility greater than 20 miles. Sky condition, few clouds at 2,100. Temperature 10 Celsius. Dew point 3 Celsius.
Alright, we're going to turn that off because everything is the same. I'm not seeing that guy taking off anywhere. He's taking off from runway. I can't talk at all today. I am sorry. don't know where that guy is. I don't see him taking off. So I assume we can assume that he has taken off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to announce our takeoff. So what I'm going to do is depart north.
Kilo Golf Yankee India traffic Papa Hotel Quebec 72 taking off runway 35 right departure to the north.
Landing lights are coming on. Brakes are going to be coming off. We're going to do a normal takeoff. Strobe lights, we don't have them, so they're not going to be coming on. Landing light is on. Flaps and trim are set. Carb heat, we're going to make sure that is off, which it is. Electric fuel pump, we'll turn that on for our takeoff. There's another airplane coming, so we need to get going. I am doing the normal takeoff checklist, by the way. Mixture, we're going to make sure that's rich, which it is. Brakes, we're going to have them released, and throttle fully open. Here we go for our takeoff. The rest of the stuff I am not going to vocalize, just because I want to get off into the air, and there's a lot of stuff in the takeoff and climb kind of all meld together, and it's hard to vocalize a lot of them. So I'm not going to be doing that right now. As you can see, our speed is about 80 knots. We have passed a decision speed and a rotate speed, so I'm going to pull slightly back on the stick. My trim is a little nose high, so I'm going to trim it a little bit just to make sure that we're not climbing too drastically. And we are off the runway, which is a good thing. Also, you can see that it wants us to tune to Fort Worth Center on 124.75, which we already have set on our COM2 frequency. However, I'm not going to tune there quite yet because I'm still pretty much on top of that runway. And so I do not want to tune until we're a little further away from the airport.
Yankee India traffic Piper November 15278 taking off runway 35 right departure to the east.
So there's another airplane that was behind us that is taking off now. And I'm just going to be flying north for a little while. We can see that there's clouds right ahead of us. It looks like I'm going to pass under them, which is fine. And then I'm going to climb to about 3,000 feet, even though the clouds are at 2,100. So I do, flying VFR rules, I do have to maintain deconfliction with them, which means I cannot fly through clouds. You're not allowed to do that under VFR rules. Only under IFR or instrument flight rules. But we're not going to be doing that for a flying tour, so we're going to maintain VFR. Going to start to level out a little bit until we get past that cloud, and then we'll climb a little more. Actually, I might just level off at 2,000 feet. That sounds like a good altitude to level off on. So I'm going to pull back my throttle slightly, get to a nice cruise speed, and start leveling off. Hopefully my aircraft does not crash or anything like that like it did last time, because that sucked. Alright, overshot it a little bit, but I'm working on trimming out my aircraft. And we're getting trimmed. We're about 100 feet high, but we are flying VFR, so we're all right as long as we maintain a visual deconfliction with other aircraft. Pitch down my nose a little bit, see if I can't descend. Also, we're getting far enough away from that airport, so what I'm going to do is switch to COM2, and I'm going to request a flight following. They're going to give me a squawk code, and that way, if my engine dies, they will let me know, or let the rescue people know, hey, this person is crashed and dying, so we should go save them. However, these other people got to stop talking first. I'm going to get a drink.
Piper November 15278 Fort Worth Center, squawk 3036.
So I guess we're just going to cruise at 200, 2,200. No, I don't like that. I'm going to pull back my throttle a little bit, descend, and then I'll bring it back up. Because I want to be proper. I want to be right. So we're going to get to that altitude that I said, which is going to be 2,000 feet. We're going to request flight following at this time.
Hotel Quebec 72 is type Piper 3 miles southwest of Tango X-ray 12. Request flight following. 42406. Turn right, heading 220. Proceed on course. Descend and maintain 4,000. Papa Hotel Quebec 72 Fort Worth Center. Squawk 0424.
0424. 0424.
request flight following. Papa Hotel Quebec 72, radar contact 3 miles west of Tango, X-ray 12, 2,100, altimeter 3002, beach November 8423, Hotel Fort Worth Center, squawk 7371.
So you can see that altimeter change, so I'll change that. You see a little change in the altitude just because of that slight altimeter change. It's a nice little lake up here. Starting to get to the altitude that we want to be at, because I want it to be at 2,000 feet. So we're giving it just slightly more throttle, and then it will start to level out. One thing that confuses a lot of new pilots is that they always think that you use your trim to climb or descend, or use your elevator, your wheel, or your yoke, I should say, to climb or descend. Well, that's actually not true. What you do is you throttle for your climbs and descents, you trim for an airspeed. So that is kind of what you go for. So I'm at a nice cruising airspeed right here, 110 knots. That's good for this aircraft. It's about the same as the Cessna 172.
Acknowledge last transmission.
I acknowledge your radar contact. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, sir. You are a gentleman and a scholar. Alright, now we don't have autopilot like we did with the default Cessna 172, so everything does have to be manually hand-flown, which means I constantly am going to be monitoring my VSI. I'm going to be looking at my altitude and my heading and everything like that to make sure that I am flying straight and level, and also that I am not blowing past my altitudes that I'm at, or my airspeeds, that I'm not slowing down too much or going too fast or anything like that. I don't have hiccups. Don't have hold modes, and I don't have autopilot of any source. However, as a trade-off, I do have this lovely GPS, so we can see that we took off from this airport, so that's how we can know where we're going. But that is of no concern for me right now, because I know where I am. I'm north of that airport, and we're flying over a beautiful lake right now. Gonna bring over Sky Vector, and we can see that we are flying over Lake Texacoma. That is the lake that we're on. I'm also gonna bank slightly as I am not looking out the window, because I don't want to go too far. But what we're going to do is basically do a nice little loop-de-loop. So we're kind of going to go along Lake Texacoma for a little while, and then start heading south and set ourselves back up to come into the Sherman Denison Airport, whatever it is called. So that's what we're going to be doing for this flight. Like I said, it is just a tour flight. So what I'll probably do is follow along this lake. I'm not sure if it's a dammed lake. It looks like it might be. There's a river here, so I'm assuming it's a lake because of a dam. But we're going to fly along that for a little while, and then we're going to enter. We're probably going to start coming east here, and then enter at about a 45-degree angle into the traffic pattern and come in to runway 35 for our landing. So that is what my intentions are for this flight. We don't really need to worry about VOR navigation. I said I was going to set the VOR, which I actually never did, so I apologize for that. The VOR's frequency, you're going to lose sound for a second, is 114.6, which is the Bonham VOR. 114.6. And there's some turbulence and they're freaking out. Well, I'm sorry. That's part of life when you're flying a plane. Yes, there is turbulence. I can't do anything about it. I'm going to level out because I'm going to kind of do a run of this lake. This is actually a beautiful place to fly, even in-game. In real life, I've never flown here, so thanks for the... You know, this is a great place to fly. Sorry about that again. Holy cow, I am failing on the sound. Give me 1 second here. My channel. More turbulence.
Pacifica 8189er.
Stop with that.
Pacifica 8189er.
Sorry about this sound, you guys. I do apologize. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on We're turning drastically. I'm not paying attention at all. Anyway, like I said, this is beautiful country to fly in. We are in Grayson County, Texas. And I want to thank David Moore for giving me the suggestion to fly here, because it is actually a quite beautiful place to fly. Look at the view right now over this lake. Kind of came over there. We've been kind of just following the lake right now. And we'll keep doing that for a little longer. Start leveling out some. You can see that I'm gaining a little bit of altitude, so what I'm just going to do is pull back on my throttle slightly. We have this Dash 8 ahead of us. Not sure what they're doing. They're descending, it looks like. There must be an airport over there. Looking at my flight planner, and I don't know where they're going. There is an airport in a town called Lindsay right to the right. Over here it should be, so that might be where they're going. Still climbing a little more, so I'm not sure if the wind has changed or what. If we've got some updraft being over this lake, which I don't know if we get updrafts here, but it is sunny out still, or it is still daytime, so we might have some daytime heating, which could cause some evaporation from the lake, which I guess in theory could cause some updrafts. I'm not a weather guy, so I'm not 100% sure on that. If there's any weather guys out there, let me know if I am wrong, but it seems logical to me. A few little like farmer airports here, or airstrips. One right there that would kind of be fun to do a touch and go on. Something I haven't really done is land on any of the no-name like farm or small town airstrips that I could land on. But it is a way to keep the game interesting. So anyway, like I said, we are on Season 2. This is no longer Season 1. I hope you guys are going to enjoy this season. It's going to be a lot of the same format as Season 1, so hopefully you enjoy it. Also, what makes it a little more interactive is some of you are very good at sending me questions, others at sending me suggestions. Please continue to do so, because that builds some interactivity between us, which is what I want. And that way, I can make my videos that you want to see, because it's not, I'm doing it to fly for fun, and I'm making these videos for my fun, but also I want you guys to enjoy them as well. So I will fly to where you want me to fly. I will do the types of flights that you want to see, and give me suggestions and things like that, because I like that interactivity, and that's what I want to keep going between us. Well, she just kind of shot up pretty quick. Anyway, I think... Where are we? Yep, we're north, so that is our airport right there. We're still kind of north on that Lake Texacoma. Like I said, I think that other plane was landing at a city called Lindsay. If I bring over my aeronautical chart again, we're in Sherman right here. We're kind of up here now, though, or coming down this thing, and that town of Lindsay was over here, and that's the only other airstrip I really see, which is straight west of us, unless they're going up to Falcon Head or something up here. I don't know where they were going. They were descending, whatever. I'm sure they had their intentions on what they planned on doing. It's kind of a nice change being down here in Texas, though, from Michigan, where all you saw is trees. I guess there's a lot of trees down here, but not quite as many as when we were flying up the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, because that was a lot of trees. Here, if I were to lose engine, I could maybe, you know, land in some of the grassy areas. Also, you saw the clouds disappear. What that is that's Rex.
Traffic is 12 o'clock, 4 miles at 5,500. Cessna Skyhawk, report them in sight.
Yes, I see them. Report traffic.
Traffic is 11 o'clock, 4 miles at 2,100. Fictional, report them in sight. Papa Hotel.
I do report them in sight because I see them. They're above us, but we should be deconflicted because we are a good 3,000 feet below them. But thank you for the heads up, air traffic controller. Also, like I was mentioning, you saw the weather change. What I think that was, or what I know that was Rex, real world weather, changing. So something must have changed real world in the weather to cause a change. and that's why all the clouds changed, and also it kind of updates. We've been flying for a while, so what I'm going to do is start entering the traffic pattern. You can see that there is a Piper Archer here that is coming most likely for approach into here, but I don't have that CTAF radio up, so I can't hear. But what I am going to do is I'm going to cancel my flight following. They're going to make me squawk 1200, so I'm just going to start going to that.
Papa Hotel Quebec 72, Fort Worth Center, cancellation received, squawk 1200, frequency change approved.
Which I am doing now, and I'm going to go back to COM 1, which will be the CTAF frequency. I'm going to start descending here also, because I want to get to about 1,700 feet. Also, I got to go to the nearest airport list and Grayson County, and we are going to select a runway 4 landing, because like I said, this was only a tour flight, so we're going to be landing at runway 35 right. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to go to the ASOS information, make sure the winds haven't changed or anything like that.
Wind 286 at 17. Visibility greater than 20 miles. Sky condition clear. Temperature 9 Celsius. Dew point 2 Celsius. Altimeter 3000. Kilo.
Oh, fun. So, what we have, if you can hear, is we have a crosswind now. So no matter how we try to do it, we're going to have a crosswind, and it's almost a crosswind that's out of limits. I'm going a little too low now. Got to go to COM 1 again, make sure my active CTAF frequency. We're going to select a runway for landing. I'm kind of doing a lot of things at once right now. Anyway, the wind has shifted. That's what that was telling me. Wind is now 286 at 17. So we basically have a straight west crosswind at 17 knots. I am actually not sure what the crosswind limits are for this aircraft are, but we're going to try a crosswind landing because you've never seen that yet, and it'll give us something a little challenging to do. For this small of aircraft, I am sure we are right on the limit. So logically, what I should do is if I pull up that airport diagram again and bring it over here, I'm going to let those guys pass and land. But what I should do is try to minimize my crosswind by going on this airstrip right here. But you can see that it is only 60 feet wide, and it's a short airstrip. So if I blow over it some, or if I go wide, because I will still have pretty much a crosswind there, it'll be minimized, maybe only about 10 knots, but it's still a decent crosswind, and it's not very wide of a runway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for the 150-foot wide runway here. That'll give me a little more leniency for the crosswind that I'm going to be facing, because I don't really have a good east-west option. And looking at a lot of the airports around here on SkyVector, there aren't a whole lot of east-west options. Everything, it seems like the predominant winds are north-south. So we're going to just have to play our luck and do a crosswind landing. You can see that we're level at about 1,600 feet. We're a little past the beam point, which is fine, but I need to start slowing down. So what I'm going to do is I'm really going to pull back my throttle. I'm going to also pull back my elevator because we need to bleed out some airspeed, get into that white arc, which we're entering now, so I can turn on my first detent of flaps, because normally you want to do that at the beam point. But however, I was going long on the, I got to announce a full stop landing too. We're entering a base leg now.
Hotel Quebec 72 is on downwind, runway 35 right. Kilo Golf Yankee India traffic.
Anyway, what I was saying is I got to bleed off that airspeed. Normally you want to put in your first detent of flaps at the beam point of the airstrip. Oh man, I'm really getting pushed out.
Hotel is 2 miles south inbound visual, runway 35 right.
Alright, so this is not good right now. I'm not doing this very well. Got my first detent of flaps in. I need to get centered up with that airfield. Also, I'm going to be using a lot of rudder on this landing because we do have that pretty severe crosswind of 17 knots. So I gained a little more altitude. That is good. We're getting a little more centered. Drop one more detent of flaps. I'm probably only going to do 2 detents of flaps, however, because I don't want to get too slow, especially with that crosswind. I want to be able to correct for the wind that will be facing us. Getting a little more lined up. However, I can't get too lined up, because if I get perfectly lined up, I'm just going to get pushed to the right by the wind. I can already kind of feel that happening now. So in order to go straight like I'm doing now, you can see how I'm actually crabbing into the wind some. This is how you land into that crosswind, is you apply some rudder, you crab into the wind. We're a little low right now, so you can see on the VASI lights right there that we're low. So we're going to try to maintain a little bit of altitude until we get on the glide slope, which you can see we're entering kind of right now. So we can get a little bit of a descent in. I'm sorry that I'm not vocalizing anything, but crosswind landings are not the easiest. You can see I'm off to the right, so I have to actually rudder and crab more with the wind. Pull back my throttle a little more because we're going to start getting high.
Kilo Golf Yankee India traffic. Piper November 545 Fort Hotel is clear of the runway.
Alright, I'm going to announce that I'm on final, and oh man, that's a crosswind.
72 is on final, runway 35, right on land.
Alright, we're going to start getting low, so I need to give it some power, give it some rudder. Start straightening up. Make sure we don't get pushed too much by the wind. And we are down. It was a little hard, and sorry about that glitch with my computer. My computer's not the greatest. But we landed. That was a pretty severe crosswind, actually. So I'm having to we have a straight crosswind right now, so I'm having to use my yoke. Normally what you do is you have your plane kind of turn into the crosswind with your aileron, so that way you don't get lifted on one side. There we go. Whoa, whoa, I don't know what just happened there, but that was crazy. Sorry about that. Anyway, we are clear of the runway. Sorry, I'm still thinking about that crosswind landing a little bit. Woo, we are landed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quick pull back. Passenger satisfaction is 94, so they're still happy with me despite that crosswind landing. Also, I'm going to turn off my landing lights right now. Pitot heat is coming off. What I'm doing is I never vocalized any of my cruise or landing checklists. I normally don't do that because there is a lot that goes on. Fuel pump needs to come off, and I actually forgot to do that in flight, which was a ding on me, so that was bad. Normally you do that on the takeoff or landing, but it is off now. So what we're going to do is start our taxi. Again, since this is a non-towered airport, we're going to keep monitoring that CTAF frequency. However, we can't request a parking spot through ground, so it's kind of a big boy system like I said earlier, so we have to deconflict with other aircraft on our own. But if you remember, we came on taxiway Alpha, and that is what we're going to go off on again, is taxiway Alpha. And that'll take us into that general aviation parking area over there where we will park again. Also, what we can do is we're taxiing now, so I'm going to pull my flaps up again. After landing checklist, I'm going to kind of vocalize some of that right now. Flaps, we want to make sure they're up. Electronic fuel pump off, which it is. Landing lights off and taxi light on as required. Don't have that. Strobes we want off, which again we don't have. Transponder, we're going to turn that to standby now, which it is. And trim, we'll set that for takeoff, which it should be relatively close, but I'm not going to focus on it right now because the wind is, you can see if I let go, I'm really going to start, or if I don't use my rudders, I'm going to start turning into the wind because it's going to push that tail and that big rudder of mine the way with the wind, which is east, and it's going to turn the nose of my aircraft into the wind. So that was another thing right after landing when you saw that I started turning left right away, is because I didn't have enough of my rudder in, which actually controls the nose wheel, to compensate for that wind, which is pushing all of my elevator or excuse me, rudder off into the east and turning my nose to the west. So that is kind of what's happening there. So you can see every time I speed up, my plane's wanting to turn left a lot. I mean, it does have that tendency some with torque of the aircraft and things like that, but right now it's because of the crosswind. We're gonna start turning in here. I know there's parking spots up here somewhere. Right next to that other Piper looks like a good place, kind of by those buildings. So we can see that we can turn in any one of these. I'm gonna turn into the next one, and that should be a good parking spot for me. Almost there. Start turning left some. You notice also when I was heading east, I wasn't getting those jerks to the left because the crosswind was not affecting me. Directly behind it. There we go. A little too sharp of a turn, but whatever. And here's a good parking spot. I actually have no idea where the terminal is for this airport, and on the diagram I didn't see a terminal. So that's what it's going to be. Shutdown checklist. We are there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start unloading my passengers right away. So I'm going to open my door. They can start getting out. I'll turn off my seatbelt sign, and you can see they're still aboard. Apparently, I must have to turn off my engine. So parking brake, we're going to go ahead and set that. I think they need that, actually, to get off. So there they go. Parking brake is set. I'm doing the shutdown checklist right now if you want to keep following along. Avionics and electrical, we're going to make sure that that is all off. So avionics are coming off. Electrical, what we're going to do is we're going to keep that beacon on because you need that whenever the engine is running. But we are going to turn off our nav light now. Also, what we can turn off, everything else is off, so that should be good. Magnetos, we could check those. I'm not going to do that because I do that at takeoff. Mixture, we're going to pull that to idle or cut off. The engine is going to die. Hobs and tachometer, normally you would measure that. It basically gives you the flight time, the engine time, flight time on that engine, because you do have to have your 100-hour inspections and other inspections like that where you need your Hobs and tachometer information. Chocks, tie downs, covers, doors, secure. Flight plan, call to close. It doesn't ever mention taking off the alternator switch and the battery switch, so I'm going to do that now. Also, I'm going to turn my key, not to the on position, but to the off position. Everything is down, throttle is down, mixture is down, carb heat is off, parking brake is on, everything else is off. Why did that come off? Leave that as is. You can hear the engines winding down, or should I say the batteries winding down, and we're just going to leave our beacon on as always. So everything should be shut down and secure. I'm going to go ahead and close that door because I don't leave my aircraft. I can't leave it, so I just sleep in here. It's quite comfortable. Anyway, what we'll do with that is call it a good flight. We'll go into FSPassengers and end this flight. Mode realistic flight already registered. So that's what that means when you automatically register the flights. We can see that we were flying my PA-28 Archer 2 in Phriq Airlines Part 10. Flight distance was 37 nautical miles. We were on the ground for 18 minutes. Flight time was 38, and we actually had 20 minutes airborne, which was pretty good. Those tour flights have to be at least 10 minutes or 3 hours, or 10 minutes to 3 hours. Don't go shorter than 10 minutes. Don't go longer than 3 hours. If you're doing a 3-hour tour flight, though, you're crazy. Landing speed, 60 knots. That's good speed, and you can see that my landing touchdown was nice. 175 feet a minute. Not quite a kiss, but I'm fine with that considering the crosswind that I had. Passenger opinion, exceptional flight, 100%. They're relieved that they landed safely after the extreme weather they experienced during landing. So I guess my crosswind landing made my passenger satisfaction go up to 100% from the 94, so I'm very happy with that, actually. Financial report, we made $4,000. No cargo, but it is a tour flight, so we don't have to worry about that. Reputation should be 100%, and that increases my company reputation. Bonus points, Very nice landing, plus 50, perfect flight, no problems, very satisfied passengers, 150 points in extreme weather conditions during approach, but a safe landing with satisfied passengers, so another 100 points. So that is pretty awesome. Strobe lights must be activated while I don't have them, so I will accept that, and the one penalty that was disabled was my flaps. Anyway, that concludes our tour flight and the first flight of my first episode, or my second season of Let's Play Flight Simulator X FSPassengers. I hope you guys enjoyed the flight. Sorry, I kind of felt like it was a little, I felt a little out of it today. I'm sorry, I'll get a little better on that. Anyway, please comment if you enjoy the flights. I love hearing from you guys. Send me any questions that you may have, any suggestions, any hate mail, or, you know, if things I need to improve on, or if I screwed up in some way, let me know, because I want to make sure that these are as realistic as possible, and if I'm making a mistake and not realizing it, I want you guys to call me out on it, so please do that. Also, if you've not subscribed, please do so, because every time I see that subscription number go higher, it makes me a little more happy, and it gives me a little more motivation to make these videos. So please subscribe, and that way also you'll get notified as soon as I come out with a new video. Thank you very much for watching this video, guys, and I appreciate everything. I appreciate all the support, and I will catch you all next time.